Hi, and welcome to Let's Talk. Today we have got a distinguished guest with us who served our country for more than 32 years as an army person. He retired as a brigadier of Indian Army, which is a very honorable post in our country. You see, it is indeed an honor for us to have him with us today. So let's welcome Brigadier Suresh Nair, who is now busy mentoring and molding the little young technical minds of India as an administrative head in TCS Trivandrum. Welcome to Let's Talk, sir. The 32 years that you spent in military. So could you like to just take us through the 32 years life?
Actually 32 years is the actual service period, but if you add up the other portions of training, etc., it really comes to 36 years,
Okay.
which implies I was at 3 years in the National Defence Academy, 1 year at the IMA, and thereafter we get commissioned.
Yeah.
So when I joined the National Defence Academy, the age was about 15 and a half.
Okay.
When I look back now, of course, when I have children of that age who are grown up, I say it was far too young, far too immature. I still wonder how did my parents allow me to take such a major career decision or life decision at that moment.
Sure.
It's a very basic decision one took. But we were actually, the word that generally people use is broken in, but I wouldn't say broken in. We were actually, we got together as a group, and we were 250 who joined together. A total of 1,500 were there. And that strong bonding with the army starts from there. And that is where we actually started the life of bonding. Of course, one thing I must tell you, one joined the army saying that we will not study. But what really happened was that I had about 6 subjects when I left school.
Okay.
But when I went into the National Defence Academy, I had 23 subjects.
Okay.
Which ranged from physics, chemistry, maths, biology, and down to engineering drawing and foundry and carpentry and workshop. All these were also subjects which were included. This intellectual portion really gave the basic grounding which even assists me today. Like, for example, today when I look at things like I'm in charge of the facilities here and construction activities, engineering drawing gives me the facility now to read and understand drawings of the buildings.
Yeah, true.
And also spot out faults and mistakes which they create.
Yeah.
At that particular time, I used to wonder why they're teaching me this.
True.
But that was a solid intellectual grounding in our time which was given, along with physical actions. That continued for 3 years. And thereafter, once you leave the National Defence Academy, you go to the Indian Military Academy for a period of 1 year. In our time, because of the war, 1971 war, that time was cut short by about 3-4 months.
Okay.
But then that was solid grounding on the actual aspects of warfare at the lower levels.
Okay.
The one thing that one learned over there was companionship and the friendship which brought you together. And you realized that you became greater friends. You may have had good friendships, but much, much better friendships developed because of the difficult situations that one was put through.
True.
In comfort and ease, friendships don't really form.
Yeah.
You just form acquaintances.
Yeah.
And it is in difficult situations that you really form good friendships.
True.
Then when you went into this thing, and as I said, the era of study still didn't finish.
Yeah.
We went back to study for another 6 months to initial learning of the actual subjects that we will be doing in the army. And when we went into the actual units, that is when we realized that the entire unit is like a family.
Yeah.
Right from the youngest Jawan to the senior most, the commanding officer, the entire lot of the family. Structure there is, but that structure is there because it is required for purposes. But otherwise, everyone behaves as a family. and you behave absolutely like you would do in a family with elders, with sisters, brothers, etc. Of course, in our time, it was there were no women;
Yeah.
there were only men. So, to that extent, that was the other side. But that behavior of a family and working together. What we were taught was that you may be very high and mighty, you may be the commanding officer, but you have to learn to do the lowest man's job.
True.
If you do not know the lowest man's job, then you cannot really gain their respect, which is required for the unit to function and for the results to come. But after all, what does the army do? The army is really there to defend the nation, which means you are actually facing the enemy.
Yeah.
When you are facing the enemy, then everyone has to trust the leaders.
Yes.
And that trust builds up over the span of time which we spend with together by doing each other's job, knowing each other very well.
Okay.
And this was the first thing that really struck, that you don't go to become what is commonly called Lat Sahibs or big people.
Yeah.
You go in as equals and learn as equals. And the one thing we learned was that in the army, you learn from everyone at every point of time. And you should not be shy of accepting the fact that you don't know something, because the person next to you, who may be junior to you, will teach that to you.
Yes.
And teach that with enthusiasm and with verve that is required.
Yeah. Going back to all those years, the spirit that people had toward joining the army and the spirit now people carry in looking towards the army or military, how do you comment on that?
When I really did get into the army, at the time of the 71 war, 65 war had finished, 71 on at that time, people were enthusiastic, people were patriotic.
Yes.
Money was not so much. Though yes, I mean outside people did have money, but people never spoke of money. People really joined for the sake of serving the country. That I think there is a certain change coming, but then that comes through all societies. With economic development and with more opportunities coming all over, there would always be some amount of people who would like to go in for the economic requirements purely. But there would always be a certain amount of people who come in for the patriotic feeling.
Yes.
I know people, I know a young boy who was a diamond merchant's son from Bombay, who has joined the army now.
Yeah.
He's worth crores, and the only child, not even the only son, the only child who joined the army. So there are people who come in for the love of the army. Even that time, there were people who came in for the sake of a profession, that they wanted some job.
Yeah.
But the army's training would certainly turn you around to work for the army and not to work for yourself.
Yes.
So that has been evenly proven by the last conflict which we had, the Kargil conflict, or by the regular insurgency operations that go on. After all, it's the young people who are right now who are being killed in this, and they are willingly taking it on. So to say that you don't get the people, you will not get, maybe incorrect. The army still changes them, and that period of training really matters to change, and this staying in the units together builds up that feeling by which you do good for the country.
At that time, what was the passion or the aim at that you had, which had driven you to the Indian Army?
Actually, as a very young boy, I wanted to see people going in uniforms, and I think it was the uniforms that really drove you in. I would not say it is the romanticism of the mountains or the romanticism of the fight. It was the color of the uniform and the stature of the soldiers one saw that really said that I should also be a straight, good, perfect looking person like him and also do something for the country. That's actually what drove one into the armed forces. Partially I'll agree. Initially one thought one doesn't have to study also, but that got disproven very quickly.
So do you have any message to the youngsters who who really don't understand the importance, or like who don't know whether they are choosing the right path or not?
As a young boy or a young girl, really, both one is very confused at the stage of, say, your high secondary stage, roughly about 10, 12. But by then, one should actually look around to see what really suits you. And I would not say any career is bad, but I'll also say for certain, the armed forces are a very good career. Yeah. You go in, as the ad says, you go in as a boy and come out as a leader.
Yes.
And that is something which stands you in good stead, not just in the armed forces, but also
in the
when you move anywhere else.
Yeah.
It could be in any field. Yeah. It could be while you are itself in the armed forces. Even when you are going out somewhere, you will find that people do things which assist the society at large. So even that portion. And you have a big benefit that you see the country. You see the far ends of the country, and you can do good for the far ends of the country which have otherwise been neglected. Yeah. And the armed forces, and I have seen it myself, I have been around the entire borders, all those areas, one has actually been able to assist people in coming out of poverty,
yes,
out of ignorance, by setting up schools, by doing some other economic activities. Sure. So all this is useful, and this only the armed forces can give you. Sure. And no other corporate also can give you this one thing which the armed forces give you. So
in the past 30 years, the way army functions or the military function, have that also been changed in that past 30 years?
The change takes place because of the change in technology. When I joined at that time, there was hardly any technology. We had old vehicles which were going in. But today you see, I mean, I'm just saying something which everyone knows. Yeah. But today the vehicles, you have wonderful vehicles. Yes. Now you can similarly imagine the multifarious equipment that the armed forces have, the guns that you have, from very primitive natured equipment to very, very modern with absolutely high-end electronics and other computer systems which control these. From where you were earlier out to the open directing it, now you are possibly sitting in a command post which is far off and in an enclosed space seeing on TV screens and then directing the weaponry. Yeah. So that is a technological change which has come. So there is a very high-end technology which has come into the armed forces. So you have to be technologically very savvy, yeah, and that has to come. But what does not change and will not change is what the armed forces have to do. Yes. And that is to win wars for the country and to ensure that the country remains as one, all told. Yeah. And one must remember there's never a prize for the runners-up in war. Yeah. You will get a silver medal in the Olympics, but there is no silver medal in war. True. And that is something which remains constant. And when you keep that constant, then when you work backwards, you find that the basic camaraderie, the basic learnings, the basic way of leading people, all that does not change. Yeah. The emphasis would change on learning of technology, etc. Now you are heading the administrative department in TCS. So how was the changeover from an armed force person to a corporate world? Change is there because after all, one comes from a totally disciplined setup into, I'll not say undisciplined, no, but into a corporate setup where the hierarchies are very vague. It's and it's very, very, very flat. So to that extent, there is a change. Otherwise, corporates, they function more on processes. Yes. And it is that you follow the processes which the armed forces also teach you. So that's not too much of a difficult stance. It may well be only that when you say something to someone, the reaction, the way people react to it, that would be slightly different from the armed forces in the corporate world. But otherwise, I have not only seen TCS, I have seen others also around here. Everyone works for their client, yeah, and they work as hard for the client as the armed forces would do for the country. Yes. So I don't think that will really matter. And it is a tough enough life. There it is physical come mental toughness. Here it is possibly just mental toughness, yes, that is required. So that will be the difference.
Yeah. So the thought leadership, like the leadership aspects that you had in army and the leadership aspect that we have nowadays in corporate. So how different is that? How easy it is to bring up the people to that level of leadership?
In the army, we were very, very clear that we needed to bring up people mold them into one unit. And people stayed on for very long with us. So the one very major difference is how long do people stay with you?
Yeah.
Whereas in the corporates, that really does not happen. It is the churn that makes the going a little difficult, because every year or two you find a large amount of people who are changing over, who are moved out. And you have to get them every time molded into a big, good team. And it is that molding of that small team which is important. When the armed forces, it became that much simpler because the team really remained constant for quite some time, because as long as people moved out on promotions and they left and right. But they still assisted you. Here when people move out, they don't fall back, they don't look back. And that is a very big difference. Another very, very big difference which I find is, having left the army about 7-8 years back, I still go back to my unit. I still meet my old friends. We have get-togethers. The corporates don't have this. They forget you the day you leave. So that is the change which one has to get adjusted to. And it is within this, because when I go back to the unit, people still understand that I am part and parcel of them.
Yeah.
When I leave here, possibly I am not part and parcel. So that is a big change which is there.
True.
So that's the major change, and you have to accordingly adapt.
Yeah. From the recent, the last answer, I'm just picking it up. Like you said that you learn many things when you join army, from maths to construction and like drawings. So recently TCS is coming up with a new training center. So I believe that all those learnings you have implemented over here, because I feel that it's a real great achievement that TCS is setting up a new training center for the new joinees. So how would you like to comment on that?
TCS is setting a big training center for the joinees, and it comes in handy because I can now, as I said, I can read the drawings, I can understand, I can also visualize as to how should it be set up.
Yeah.
What are the basic facilities that are required, because it's a totally new thing which is coming up. So that comes in very handy. What also comes in handy is when one has been moving around, one sees earth, the soil conditions.
Yeah.
How does that get looked into? How will that affect you? So although the architects, etc., do give their views, but these practical ends of the problem and those things which come out add value to the entire project.
Sure. Would you like to tell us something about your family?
I'm married to Maya. She works in a school locally, and she's fond of little children, and she works with little children in the primary school. We have 2 children. Elder is a daughter, Aparna, who is finished a law from Cochin, from the National University of Advanced Legal Studies in Cochin.
Okay.
She works with a law firm in Bangalore.
Okay.
She's married. Shyam, her husband, also studied with her. My son Adarsh, he finished his hotel management from the Institute of Hotel Management at Bombay, and he's now working with a group in Hyderabad.
So, is there a person or a role model who has inspired you a lot in your life? So, would you like to tell us something about?
I think as being a military man, the inspiration has always been a military person.
Okay.
And the nation produced the one and the most important, most famous military person, Field Marshal Manekshaw. And his ideals, the way he conducted himself, the way he did everything for the nation is what really inspired us.
You were in military and now you are in a corporate world. So how do you balance the life among your profession and your family?
Balancing of life is your own thing. I always say that people should work during the working hours and not after the working hours. Yeah. Most of the people work at the end of the working hours, not during the working hours. Sure. I try and maintain my timings as much as possible. Odd days when it's late, that's a different issue. Then between the two of us, I think we have a fair understanding. She does some portions of the work at home, I don't much. But there are some portions I think we do, I do. And we come back and we have our discussions over dinner tables. I otherwise go out. We both go out for an early morning exercise, which is a very healthy routine and also very eases your mental tensions out. And the day starts with that. And at the end of this, I think we just spend 1 hour together like this. That itself eases out your entire day. And the thing. Weekends, we go out a little. Of course, we play a little. So that balances it out. Over there, we used to have functions, etc. in the army. We used to have functions which we used to be there together. And that used to assist us quite a bit. Even when we were not together, I think phone calls kept us.
In bullets, list down few points that you would like to see in a leader as such, in bullet points.
I would say at a higher level, the leader must show humility. Second, he must show knowledge. Third, vision for his organization. He must show concern for the task. And I am putting concern for the task higher. And then concern for the people under him. After the concern for the task, the concern for the people, I would say. Results. And a regular, the kind that you must obtain your results. Situational understanding. I think these are the more important ones. There are, of course, a whole lot of other things that would come in. But these are the more important things.
I've got few questions for rapid fire, so you have to quickly answer them. So I've got few of them. Would you like to be known as an army man or a corporate man in this time?
Army man.
What makes you laugh?
Good jokes and good people.
What makes you cry?
Hardly anything.
Would you like to be driven by discipline or by process?
Process.
Food that breaks your strict diet?
Biryani.
Your fun-filled dream?
To go out and laze in the sea.
Your favorite food?
North Indian tandoori food.
Your favorite holiday destination?
Right now, Kovalam.
Birthday?
19th October.
So now few questions about your wife. Your wife's birthday?
8th May.
Her favorite dress?
Salwar kameez.
Her favorite hobby or pastime?
Watching TV.
Her favorite color?
Light blue.
Her favorite food?
Tandoori.
One single characteristics of her that you really admire?
She's very hardworking.
So there is a small token of love from the entire crew of Let's Talk and the Roseful channel. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
And the Sue.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much for spending this quality time with us, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you.